gentlemen, this contest set forward for is for the WWE Championship.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Welcome to Around the Turnbuckle. I'm the Big Albowski. This is my broadcast colleague, my partner, my friend, Professor Keith. And joining us tonight, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, apparently, is Rose Gold, Cody Rose. What's up, man?
Well, it's about time I grace your show with my greatness.
It is about time. I cannot argue with that. Keith and I have, gotten real deep into the independent scene in Pennsylvania. We've seen you both at 3WA and SWO. We've seen you other places, and we've been an admirer of yours for quite some time. So it is our pleasure to have you here today.
Got to call more than a few of your matches too.
Well,
Absolutely. We have called a few of your matches as well.
Well, I'm glad to hear you two at least have good taste.
We have comments already. Big Dave Motorman, big SWO fan. Good evening, guys. Let's learn about Rose Gold. Meanwhile, Cody, I'm all out of poppers. LOL. Chris Vance from South Carolina. Hello, gentlemen. What's up, Chris? Always joining us. Love you, brother. All right, let's get to it. So, once upon a time, Cody, you fell in love with this business because, let's face it, you wouldn't be putting your body on the line for our entertainment if you didn't love it. So when did you fall in love with professional wrestling?
Honestly, it's hard to pinpoint. I've been a fan of the game, studying the game since I was little. As far as I can remember, I remember watching old VHSs of Yokozuna versus Undertaker and casket matches. As far as I can remember, wrestling's been a part of my life. And I grew up watching guys like Dean Malenko, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, all those guys that could do everything in the ring. It wasn't just about the show. It was about dissecting your opponent. And that's just what really got me, just tearing down a man until he was just nothing left but a pile of limbs.
He's saying all the right names, Professor.
That he is, and I can see some of that influence in your style. You're very, technical. You're ground based. I mean, you can do other things too. You're not any one thing, but I can see that influence in what you do. You want it to be realistic. You want it to be credible, and that definitely comes through in what I've seen of what you do.
Yeah, I appreciate the mix of mixed martial arts and classical professional wrestling that you see a lot today. As a teenager in high school, I trained a little in collegiate wrestling and in MMA, so I feel that background really just builds towards the style that I try to perfect every time I get in that ring.
All right, got another comment here. Anthony Joseph always likes to stir the pot, Professor. That sounds like a WCW guy, ZZZ. He mentioned the names that you mentioned were all, Eddie Guerrero, Jericho, WCW. The problem with Anthony Joseph is he never watched or experienced WCW. That's the problem there. So just
he's
saying.
He's got the Vince McMahon version of WCW.
Right. He's a
the other people that were
WCW
anti-WCW.
Anthony started following wrestling back when Stone Cold Steve Austin and the Bret the Hitman Hart and Shawn Michaels started really the bubble in the 90s.
So he missed ECW and all of that, where
Right.
almost all of those guys got their start and broke out into what they would become.
Absolutely. So that love of the business and your admiration for those guys we just mentioned led you to get involved and led you to want to be a wrestler. So when did that happen for you? How old were you? And where did you seek up training?
So for those of you that are more familiar with my career, when I first came into SWO, my home promotion where I got started, I was teaming with a gentleman, I'll put it nicely, Richard Bonaire. He brought me into the business. I was fresh out of college. I was 21, 22. We had mutual friends. He saw me post something about wrestling on social media one time and was like, hey, I have an opportunity for you. I think you should come try it out. I tried it out at first, and honestly, it wasn't for me. I did one session, was like, I got other things going on in life. That's beneath me. But I kept thinking about that one session. And I kept thinking about it. And then I came back. And then now I'm here. 5 years later, still going strong.
That's amazing because that's one we haven't heard, Keith. We've interviewed over 100 wrestlers and or managers and or referees. And one of the things we've never heard is getting into it, leaving it, and coming back in that manner where he just did one session basically and he's like, nah, this ain't for me. You usually don't come back after that.
Yeah, it was very interesting. Not many things in my life have I tried that I didn't know if I wanted to do right off, or that I didn't know if I could do right off. Most things I've done, I could just try and succeed. Whereas with wrestling, I wasn't sure if that was something I could do. But the thought of giving up on that challenge and not trying that challenge ate at me while I was in the gym, while I was on the treadmill, while I was doing squats, while I was doing bench presses. That's all I could think about is that one thing that I didn't do. And that's what eventually brought me back. Because I wanted to prove that I could do this and do this better than everyone else.
And I might argue that you do from what we've seen. I know you said you're 5 years in, but like 5 years in now, you're kind of in your groove. You kind of found your character. You've kind of found your moves. You've kind of found your like what you want out of this business. And you probably, am I wrong in saying you probably have set some goals for your life and for this business? And in if that's the case, what are those goals?
Well, so I had gotten a little complacent with the syndicate. Not gonna lie, I was kind of coasting. We were on top of the world. I didn't have to do much to be there. We were just dominating everyone in our path, and then things changed. Kiesel decided he wanted a vacation. And I had to sit and think what I wanted. So I stopped being this medieval gentleman, and I just wanted to be me. I wanted to be the guy that was better than you, he was born better than you, and you won't forget that he's better than you. And as for goals I've set, I just want to go, and I want to prove that I am the best at any promotion I set foot in. I want to go. I want to make my name everywhere I go. I want to make sure that no one forgets who I am the second I step foot in that ring. Those are my goals.
Now, you talked about SWO, and to me, I see you as you've had a lot more success in your home promotion than you've had, say, 3WA. In 3WA, you were on a tear there for the past, 6 or 8 months, Keith, where you basically kept trying to win a championship. You almost took on every champion they had, including their former heavyweight champion, Tony Batista. So
I think the only title shot he didn't have was a women's title match for obvious reasons.
So talk about that, Cody. What was going through your mind there about, like, were you trying to, like, because my partner here has said many times that right on Carnage when we're calling your matches, that each time you had a title match, it seemed like you were trying to find yourself or find where you fit there. Is that the idea, or were you just like, hungry for a championship? How'd that work?
It was a little bit of both. Like I said, with everything going on with the syndicate, I was left in a bit of a rut. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So through those title matches, I was just trying my style and seeing if I could match the style of anyone I went against and put them through their paces and make them actually have to work to beat me. Otherwise, I come home with gold around my waist. It's a win-win. I get to test out my versatility, and you guys get to see a good match.
Thundercat Greg Winters is here. What's up, Greg? Cody Rose, the man, the myth, the legend. Greg is a wrestler down south. He wrestles in Alabama, among other states down there. So
Keep trying to lure him up here.
He right. We're really trying desperately to get him up in PA and take on some of these guys that we talked to and I've met up here. But so let's go back to some of your influences as you develop, as you've wrestled the past 5 years. Who are some of the guys you mentioned Jericho and Guerrero and Benoit, but who are some of the guys where you derive your style from? You mentioned that you like to mix martial arts in there, because I do see some of your movesets, some of your stuff that you do has a little martial arts in it. Like, so where do you derive all that stuff to come up with the package that is Cody Rose?
Well, I watch a lot of footage, and I don't just limit to any one market. Like, you guys have, like, Zack Sabre Jr. and Minoru Suzuki over in New Japan that have always been showcasing a different style of technical that we could even imagine here. Even guys like Jonathan Gresham, Bryan Danielson, all guys who are all about the ground and pound, picking apart your opponent. Even Matt Riddle, back when he was on the Indies and he was doing a little bit more MMA stuff.
Yeah.
So those are all guys that I just watch, and I see things and I'm like, oh, I could do that, but I think I could make it different and do it this way, and I think that'd be more efficient. I think that would do more damage. I think it would tear apart my opponent better.
Good group of influences, says Thundercat. He also has similar influences there. He often talks about Bryan Danielson as his main influence. And I've seen a lot of Greg's matches, and Keith and he has sent them to us to check out and say, hey, what do you think? And you can see a lot of Bryan Danielson in his moveset. So let's get to Cody Rose. In other words, where did you come up with Rose Gold Cody Rose? What part of you is Rose Gold Cody Rose? And it seems like Rose Gold Cody Rhodes, anytime I've ever seen him, is a heel. Like, he's not a good guy. Like, he's not somebody you want to mess with, but on the same token, he's not somebody that is going to let you mess with him. So where does Cody Rose come from out of you?
So where Cody Rose comes from, in my shoot life, I worked a lot of customer retail, and I've dealt with people that aren't always the nicest. So the Cody Rose character comes from dealing with those people all the time and realizing how much better than them I am. That I'm just so much better than them. That intellectually, physically, they can't keep up with me. That's where it comes from. Just that feeling of realizing that no matter who's around you, they can't compete with you. And I've just recently acquired the means through smart investment from the profits from the syndicate to really hone that style and live that life.
He's not from the most expensive hotel around for nothing, Professor.
No.
All right. Here's Chris Vance with a question for Mr. Rose, and that is, do you feel when you're going into a match, do you feel you might need to change your style against a certain wrestler, or you always go in with the same style?
Oh, my game plan always has to change for who I'm competing against. Most of the time, I'm the biggest guy in the ring. Especially on the indies right now, a lot of smaller guys run around. I can overpower them, bully them, but every now and then you get a guy like, say, Evan Atlas or even Orc. Yeah. Obviously, I'm the smaller man there. So the game plan changes from bullying, overpowering them, and just inflicting my will to them to how do I chop down that tree? How do I take a brick out of that wall? How do I bring them down to my level? And it's all about that mindset we were talking about earlier, where you go in wearing down your opponent, and that's why my style I think is so efficient, because I only have to tweak it slightly based on my opponent because it's all the same idea. Wearing them down, whether it be strength, whether it be cardiovascular, whether it be mentally. And just wearing them down until they're at that breaking point where they're puttying your hands and that match is yours.
Sounds like a guy I know says classic Johnny Potter, and that is me. Meaning him.
That definitely is Johnny's mindset.
You want to jump in here with some questions there, Professor?
Yeah, I mean, I just going off of what Cody just said, and I think that separates the guys, you know, that are starting to get it or have gotten it, where that light switch is kind of going off, where, you know, it's the difference between saying, okay, I'm really going to understand the game and I'm really going to become a wrestler and stick with it, versus the guys that, you know, we all make the jokes about indie psychology, right? Indie psychology is, got to get my shit in, bro. And they're not thinking about the opponent. They're not thinking about the match. They're not thinking about, hey, how do I make this work? How do I make this enjoyable? They're just thinking about, here's another guy that I can do what I do well against. And they're not thinking about, like, yeah, but does that make sense here? Does it make sense to walk in and say, okay, I want to go boom, 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 boom. These are all the things I do well. Oh, he doesn't really know how to take that. Or, oh, that isn't going to look great because, you know, it's something where I really need to do that on somebody smaller than me, and this guy has got a foot height advantage or something. So I'm pleased to hear you saying, like, yeah, I know what I'm doing, and I go in there knowing what I'm doing, but I got to look at who I'm in there with, and I've got to be able to say, okay, this is what I should do, this is what I shouldn't do. Maybe I subtract a couple of things, maybe I add a couple of things, and I can really see that when you go in there, especially in the last few months of 3WA, which is what I primarily see you in, because I'm out a little further than now, as I'm still trying to get out to SWO to see that. But I mean, your evolution just in what I've seen of 3WA, from where you were when I started going to where you are now, it's impressive, because we've seen, you know, Cody Rose, the bad guy, like you say, bullying people, beating people up. We've also seen Cody Rose, kind of the good guy, seeing the light, working with the tag champions lately, and being able to fire up and, you know, have those fiery comebacks and all that stuff. So it's really a testament to the intelligence you have, the wrestling intelligence you have, to be able to switch it up like that and make it work.
Yeah, I mean, I just read the situation and try to adapt. If I'm in there against someone the crowd hates, I could care less if they love me, but I know their love for me is going to get in the other guy's head, so I'll play to that. Because when that crowd turns on them and starts loving me, the other bad guy, they're not going to know what to do. Because they're supposed to hate me too. So when I go out there and play them like a fiddle and make them my pawns, it really turns the table psychologically.
That it does.
Indie psychology sucks, says Greg. It's all about telling the story.
I could not agree more, and you know I could not agree more.
Right.
It cannot, there's a world of difference between, like I say, the guys that are just out there for themselves and the guys that are out there and say, you know, how do we make each other versus how do I make me? How do we make each other better? That's the trick.
So let's talk a little bit about SWO nowadays. The last time I saw you in Seven Valleys, you were involved in a 10-man tag team match where it was your team versus Kiesel's team. You want to talk about what led to that match and where we go from here?
Well, what really led to that match is it all goes back to when Kiesel decided he was just going to retire up out of nowhere. We were on a roll. We were the tag champions. Then we had a cage match against Beauty and the Beast Slayer.
Right.
And we had that match won. We were walking out the door. And Kiesel let his hubris get to him and let one little comment that Zach Belmont made get under his skin. And he went back because he felt like he needed to inflict more punishment. And because he did that, he got out-wrestled, he got beat, and we lost those titles. And there was nothing I could do but sit outside the cage and watch. And then, after we lose, he walks away, leaving me nowheres. So then he comes back and thinks we can just operate on all cylinders again. Except his mindset seems to have changed. He doesn't seem to be about doing whatever it takes to get that victory anymore, but more about doing it by some set of imaginary morals of his. And that cost us another championship reign when we had Beauty and the Beast Slayer beat, and we were on our way to beating the Praise Me practice. When he intervenes, stops me from using his axe handle, knocking me out in the process and costing us our match. And then, after he cost us the titles, he had the audacity to punch me in the face. So, I wanted to prove to him that I am the better teammate and that no matter who I team with, I could beat anyone he teams with because I know how to be a good teammate. I know how to be a part of a team. And I think last month we proved that. And now he's playing this fake injury card because he knows he can't take me one-on-one. So now he's just sending his friends in his place when everyone knows the only person you can trust to get anything done is yourself. But he's too scared to do that. So this Saturday, August 6th at Seven Valleys, I'm going to take down his buddy Craig Excellent, and I'm going to take down anyone he throws in my path. Because at the end of the day, anyone who associates with him is already not on the same level as me.
That is this Saturday, August the 6th in Seven Valleys. If you guys are interested in SWO, you're in the area, you're in the Reading area, you're in the York area, and, you know, SWO puts on an excellent show, I know firsthand. So if you want to see this man in action, this Saturday, get your tickets. You can go to Seven Valleys I believe it's on Facebook. Seven Valleys has a Facebook page with a link to tickets, but I believe it's like $20 at the door. But you really get a great show. It's a great venue. It's a great atmosphere. The fans are electric, and you're not gonna waste your money. It's a great time in Seven Valleys. I know firsthand. That being said, let's talk about your future. What do you want out of this business ultimately?
Ultimately, what I want out of this business is to just put on a series of great matches. That's all I want. I want to go in there and have in-ring classics everywhere I go with everyone I wrestle. That's what I want. I don't care about championships. I don't care about big money contracts. I already have the money. I can buy all the gold I want. I don't need an extra belt around my waist. I just want to prove I can outwork everyone.
Professor, you like that answer?
I think that's a very good answer. Yeah, people get caught up with, I want to go here, I want to do this, or I want to do that. And if you're not living in the moment, and you're not enjoying the ride, and you're not focused on, well, how do I achieve each individual step that might get me up that ladder and might get me to that next phase? It's going to be that much harder to get there. It's great to have a goal in mind. It's great to have a destination, but you need to enjoy the journey, and you need to make sure you take care of all the steps along the journey as well.
Cody, how much do you pay attention to TV, to wrestling on TV at all? Do you pay any attention to any of it, or do you just basically go back and study, you know, the old school stuff?
I pay attention to the highlights, and if there's a match that sticks out, like the recent Jonathan Gresham, Claudio, whatever his last
Ring
name.
of Honor Championship.
Yeah, matches like that. Zack Sabre Jr., Claudio, supposed to be Bryan Danielson. That was a match that caught my attention. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Sonata over New Japan. When that match was happening, that was a really good one. And most of Zack Sabre Jr. matches, keep one right now. But most of the time, I just keep tabs, keep highlights, and if I hear about a good match, I'll go check it out. But I kind of just pick and choose based on the style I want to learn and the moves I'm interested in seeing.
So you talk about making moments. You talk about making great matches. You're like what you want out of this business, and I agree with Keith. I love that answer. That you just wanna make great matches. That's great, and that's very honorable. I appreciate that answer. But if there's somebody that you have never wrestled, that you would wrestle tomorrow if you were allowed to book it yourself, who would that be and why? And even if it's in a like what we call a dream match scenario where it's somebody that you probably won't get to wrestle, but you would love to wrestle that person before you retire.
If it could be any one person, it would have to be William Regal. That man has forgotten more about wrestling than most of us could even hope to learn.
Amen.
And even if he kicks my ass, I would come out that match that much better. Because
you listen to his
from him.
Do you listen to his podcast, Gentleman Villain?
I do, yes.
Yeah, it's a good podcast. I think it was a little rough in the beginning, but he's kind of started to find his voice now and find his comfort level.
Yeah, podcast seemed a little out of his wheelhouse at first.
Yeah.
You mentioned him, and I love William Regal, don't get me wrong, but I do see a little of him in your mannerisms a little bit. Like now that you mention that, like you mentioned him, sometimes when you have your hand behind your back or, you're a little bit, I do, now that you mention his name, I do see a little of him in you. So that would make sense that you'd want to go one-on-one with him. And like you said, he's forgotten more about wrestling than any of us will ever learn. So yeah, that'd be great. I agree with that. That's a good one. Chris had another question. In your 5 years career, have you had that match that you will always remember? You'll never forget.
Yes, actually. There was one match in that 5 years that I will never forget. It was in 2019. I want to say it was February, March. It was in Seven Valleys at SWO, and it was against Evan Atlas when he had that Uprising Championship. And we put on what I think should have been the match of that year. We were snubbed. That was the best match SWO had seen that year, heck, that decade. He only beat me with a sucker punch of a spear. But that's another story for another day.
Well, right. But I mean, you talk about Evan Atlas, and we admire Evan Atlas. We've seen Evan Atlas both in SWO and 3WA. He's a hell of an athlete. So the fact that you went toe to toe with him the way you did, as you describe, and that you would consider it. And I know some people might say, well, of course he's going to say it was match of the year. Or if he doesn't say that, then, he doesn't have a high opinion of what he does. Well, obviously, I bet you that if we had Evan Atlas here, he'd probably agree that that was probably match of the year, despite who won.
Definitely. And we have, I guess you could say, a friendly rivalry.
Yeah.
As close to friends as we could be, given that he's a big idiotic lug and I'm a man of class. But when we get in that ring, we both respect the same style. We both want to do the same thing to our opponents. So I can respect that in him. But that being said, I want to take him down every chance.
Of course. But if you had your pick, would you say in the 5 years' time so far that he's your greatest rival, or is Kiesel your greatest rival?
Honestly, I wouldn't say either of them.
Okay. Then who would you say?
If I would have to say anyone, it would have to be Zach Belmont. We came into SWO same time. We were trained by the same people. We came up together. So no matter what, I will always see him as my rival. He'll always be the guy that I have to outdo. He'll always be the guy that I have to show up. And even our careers have intertwined plenty, whether we see singles competitors or even in the tag division. We've always found ourselves somehow across that ring from each other. Even in the recent 10 versus the 5v5 tag, he was on the opposite side. He was on Easel's team.
Right.
So if anyone I would have to say is my greatest rival, it would be him.
You talked about earlier. You talked about putting on. You just want to put on great matches. Realistically, in your mind, do you see yourself doing this till the wheels fall off, or how long do you think that you'll just keep putting on the best matches you possibly can?
I'll keep putting on the best matches I can, as long as I feel like I can keep up with my competitors. The second I step in the ring and feel like no matter how hard I trained, no matter how hard I worked out, that I would never keep up with the person on the opposite side of the ring from me, I'll keep going. Till that day. But that would be the moment where I know that it's time. That I can't keep up with someone.
Professor, that's not an answer that we normally hear, right? We either hear that it's gonna go till the wheels fall off, or they might say what he just said, but in reality, like sometimes they can't stop doing it.
I mean, that's true, but sometimes too, you have to remember, some guys don't have a lot of better options than what they're doing right now. Sometimes the wrestling or the persona of the wrestler is so much larger and so much different than what they're doing in their actual life. Like, I know for me, with us getting involved with 3WA and getting to talk to yourself, Cody, and others, it's a great outlet too. I mean, I had a rotten day at work today. I was tired from the show last night. Just everything went the wrong way. Like you said yourself, sometimes you're dealing with people that are not the nicest, or maybe they're not as smart as you are, and you're trying to communicate to them. But if we just do this, like, respectfully, just listen to what I'm saying and just do what I need you to do, and they don't, and it sucks, and you're frustrated, and you're just like, I don't want to be me right now. And then you get to go out there and you get to be a wrestler, or you get to do what we do, which is record commentary and hopefully add something to what you guys are doing. You get to be part of this thing, and it's such a release. And I can see why folks would start to get it in their head like, this is so much better than what I'm dealing with in the real world. I'm going to keep doing this no matter what. And I think that can become a very scary mindset. So I think it's very good that you're sitting here and saying, hey, I'm going to do it as long as I'm good at it, as long as I'm enjoying it, as long as I'm hitting the level that I want to hit. And the minute that stops happening, I'm going to take my ball and I'm going to walk away, and I'm going to go back to doing something else. I think that's a really intelligent, really mature way to look at it. I cut off somewhere? Can you guys hear me?
No. I thought Cody was gonna.
Okay.
I thought Cody was gonna reply to that.
I got worried for a minute. I'm like, oh no, did my mic die?
I thought Cody had thoughts to what you just said. Maybe.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Because for this is all about the competition. This is about going out there, competing with the guy across the room from me, and showing everyone that I'm better than him. And if I can't do that, I have no reason to keep going. Because if I'm not better than one guy, there's a chance I'm not going to be better than the next guy and the guy after him. So instead of pushing myself till I die or until those wheels fall off, until I can't get out of bed the next morning, I know when to admit defeat. But that's not going to happen anytime soon. I assure you of that. There's still plenty of gas in this tank for now.
Well, if you could speak directly to your opponent on this Saturday in Seven Valleys, I would love you to look directly at him right now and speak your mind. That'd be great.
Greg, it's disgusting. You're a man that just flaunts his body even though there's nothing to flaunt. And then you throw your lot in with the likes of General Regal. Even I thought you were better than that, but I guess not. Saturday in Seven Valleys, I'm going to have to put you out of your misery. Just like I'll do with General Keith, so whenever I decide to face him.
I have no doubt that that's probably going to be the case. I know that I will be down there in Seven Valleys this Saturday to see that happen. And I know you don't know me very well yet, but I'm the guy that roots for the heels. I'm the guy that roots for the bad guys in the movies, you know? So I dig Rose Gold Cody Rose, Professor. I dig Rose Gold Cody Rose, and whatever he can do, whatever he does in that ring is always entertaining to me. Do you agree, Professor?
Absolutely. I mean, like I say, I always say you can quibble about somebody's tactics. You can question how they get the job done. But you've got to be able to respect talent. You've got to be able to respect the underlying fundamentals. If somebody's not good at what they do, I don't think you get all that mad if they cheat or if they try to steal a win here and there because, okay, if they're just no good at it, well, who cares? They're just a no good cheat, and eventually, they're going to be exposed for being a fraud. But when you've got a guy that knows what he's doing, and that was the essence of Ric Flair back in the day, right? You knew Ric Flair could back up what he was saying. That's why he got mad when he'd throw a low blow or he'd poke somebody in the eyes or he'd, do something behind the referee's back, get the foreign object, get the horseman in there and whatnot, because you knew he didn't need to do it. You knew he was good enough to do it on his own. But the fact was he just didn't care that you cared about his ability to do it. He just didn't care. He looked at it as the winner's purse is the same whether I earn it through hard work and smiles or if I take that shortcut. It's the same amount of money no matter what. And that's what gets people aggravated, and that's what gets people hot. And there are guys, and you do seem like one of them, Cody, that maybe derive a little extra something out of it. Maybe it's pleasure, maybe it's a thrill. I don't know quite what to call it. But it seems like there's a little extra secret sauce that comes out of just having that audience go, man, he didn't need to do that.
Yeah, having the audience hate me, it's definitely the energy I thrive off of. So even if I don't need to do it, I'll do it because I can. And because I know how to get away with it. They always say, it's only illegal if you get caught. And, well, I'm really good at not getting caught. And if it makes a couple people hate me, well, all the more motivation for me to do it.
Absolutely, brother. I got one last question for you, unless the professor has any more. Do you have any more, Keith?
Nothing off the top of my head. I think
I got one last question for you then, Mr. Rose, and that is fill in the blank. The greatest wrestling match you've ever seen was?
Oh, hands down, easily. Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, Halloween Havoc, 1998.
Love it. Great answer.
That's storytelling.
That storytelling, amazing. There was a nice mix of technical and high flying. Just all around great match.
Anytime that those two got together, whether it be WCW or later on in WWE, was always good. No matter, they always told great stories. They always worked great together. They were family and all, and we knew that. But the thing was, they were good friends, better enemies, and they were just. Anytime they got into the ring together, it was magic. They just thrived off of each other. They countered each other's counters. It was insane, the stuff that they did. And a lot of guys, when Keith and I interview guys in the indies, either one of those two names come up in the conversation 9 times out of 10.
Oh, yeah. I'm very glad how much Eddie Guerrero still exerts influence, and I'm sure wherever Eddie is now, Eddie's smiling. That there are still so many people that he never met them, but he touched them and he touched their life.
Sure did, and I I don't know if you got either one of you guys saw it, but the A&E biography on Sasha Banks. I mean, Eddie Guerrero was her main influence. Like Eddie Guerrero was who she worshipped when she was a little girl, and look what she became. And I mean, you know, she just if you watch her matches, you know, and once in, you know, yeah, sure, she'll throw a frog splash in there once in a while, but I mean, for the most part, if you watch some of her move sets, even the little setup moves that she does, the subtleties that a lot of wrestling fans don't see, it's so much Eddie in there, it's crazy. It's mirror images. Like she worshipped him, and you know, a lot of wrestlers did emulate him and still do to this day, like Keith said.
Oh, for sure. I think because he was all over TV around the time that my generation and the newer generation of wrestlers came up in, it's hard not to be influenced by him because he was always the guy. He was always the spotlight stealer, the show stealer, you know, the main eventer, the guy who everyone tuned in to see when we were children. So it's no surprise that he's the guy that so many of us look up to.
All right, man. Well, we're gonna get you out of here, and I got one more comment here for Big Chris in South Carolina. He says, "Good luck to you on your journey. Keep grinding. Hope to see you in the big stage someday." Whatever that stage is, I think Cody Rose on any stage is entertaining. So one last thing we'll do, and we like to do this sometimes with certain guests, and I always thought, you know, I thought it'd be interesting with you, and that is, we're gonna flip the script. Is there anything you'd like to ask us, either one of us or both of us?
Just why haven't you got me on here sooner?
Out of all due respect for my colleague over there, that is completely and 1,000% my fault.
Yeah, he's
Because
the
I honestly wanted you on about a year ago. One of the first times I saw you wrestling for 3WA in Quakertown, and I thought, man, I really want that guy. But at the time, Keith and I were still just kind of new coming down there, and we didn't get to know too many of the guys. And now we know a lot of them, and of course we know Dino, and then down in SWO, we've gotten to know Van Valley, we've gotten to know Wolfman, so we feel more comfortable going up to guys and saying, "Hey, would you like to come on and tell your story? You know, let me know when you can do it." So 100%, I apologize that we did not have you sooner, because it was an absolute delight talking to you today.
That covers all the questions I had. That was one.
Absolutely, man. If you want to see Cody Rose in action, he will be in Seven Valleys this Sunday, guys. Tickets are $20. Doors open at 6:00 in Seven Valleys. You know, not hard to find the venue there. It's a beautiful venue. It's a nice, big, huge, you know, firehouse type situation. A lot of room, good concessions, good family-friendly stuff. You come in, you bring the kids, you have a great time in Seven Valleys. Each and every month they put on a show for SWO, and this man is always a big highlight in that show. Tickets are $20. This Sunday they present Summer Series. In case you don't know, we've all been cordially invited to the wedding of Big Gus and Mary Elizabeth, so that should be something. Hey Keith, wrestling weddings don't ever go the right way, do they?
I don't know what is the right way.
Well, meaning, like, you know, nothing ever happens bad with wrestling weddings.
No, not at all. Never.
They go smooth as hell.
All weddings end in a fight, right?
Oh no, with Big Dust and the Goons, that would never happen. They are wonderful people.
They are wonderful.
Big Dust and Mary Elizabeth deserve all the happiness.
I am so happy for them. I am so happy for them and can't wait to be ringside to see it. This Saturday, guys, doors open at 6:00, SWO Wrestling Summer Series. One of the highlights is Rose Gold Cody Rose. Cody, don't go anywhere when we go off the air. Next week, Professor, you and I will be back here at our normal time slot, 6 p.m. live. And do you recall who our guest is, Professor?
I always lose the list.
He lost the list. I'll have to give you an updated list.
I think you keep writing it in disappearing ink. I think it's your fault.
Our guest next Sunday here at 6 p.m. on August the 7th.
Is someone not nearly as important as Cody Rose, of course.
Well, that is exactly true. That is exactly true. And that is, our guest is none other than under the new tutelage of Brickhouse, Nico Gray.
Nico's back.
Cannot wait to talk to him and see what's going on there, Professor.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, I'm the Big Albowski. That is Professor Keith. We have been talking to the one and only Rose Gold, Cody Rose, wrestling this Saturday in Seven Valleys. We'll see you guys all next time on Around the Turnbuckle.
Ladies and gentlemen, this contest set for one fall.